and I'm joined today with DJ Myers. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing great. And yourself?
Not bad, not bad. I hope that dog doesn't keep barking, right?
Oh, she will.
Hey, so this is No Law Firm Left Behind, and we're joined today with Mark Godbey of Godbey Law. Mark, how you doing?
Just fine, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're really excited that you're here today. So let me start before we get into anything today. Let me start by saying that No Law Firm Left Behind is here to help the legal community. And oh yeah, we're live over here too, so I don't have to pay attention to that. What are we doing in the legal community? Why do we do this? Why are we here? Well, No Law Firm Left Behind is trying to help law firms be more competitive, right? And now more than ever, that's really important. Some law firms are just really struggling. That's why we got Mark here to talk about that a little bit. Also, to help the attorneys and staff at those law firms stay productive, whether it's because there's just lack of business or because they've got so much business right now. Being productive and efficient is the heart and blood of a law firm. Yeah, I messed that one up. And then, of course, most important, we've got to get new blood into those law firms. So we're trying to help law firms learn how to get their clients calling, get new customers calling, and how to bring those customers into the fold. So, Mark, we really appreciate you being here today. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your firm, a little bit about what you've been doing all these years?
Sure. Well, you know a little bit about it, Jim,
I
because
know.
I'm proud to say we've been working together for I don't know
You're telling my age.
close to 20 years, I think.
Wow, we're old,
Um,
Mark.
and SpliceNet does a great job, by the way, for us with all of our IT stuff. But I've been practicing law here in Cincinnati for about 31 years. I started Godbey Law 27 years ago. We're a general practice plaintiffs firm in downtown. We do have some satellite offices throughout. We have three other satellite offices. There's six attorneys, and we do a variety of things from personal injury to estate planning and probate. Those are my three big areas. We also do a lot of family law, debtor bankruptcy, some employment law from the employee's perspective, some small business representation, um, and just a little bit of criminal defense, but primarily we're a civil firm.
Yeah, you helped my father-in-law out years ago. Do you remember that case?
I do.
Yeah,
John's a good guy.
John's a really good guy. John and Gwen are just wonderful. So anyway, we really appreciate that. So Mark, I want to start off. We kind of have a list of questions, right? We talked about it a little bit. And remember, this is more conversation than scripted, everyone. Mark and I didn't prepare. I just said, you know what, we're going to just kind of go over these list of questions. And if we hit all of them, great. If not, if we ramble on, that's fine too. So uh, I'd like to start off, Mark, just kind of having a conversation, if you will, that tell us a little bit about your staff there. Tell me, how many people are on your staff right now, lawyers, so on and so forth.
Well, it's interesting. There was a thread going around on the ALA. My office manager belongs to the Association of Legal Administrators,
Debbie, she's fantastic, by the way.
and she is. She's, yeah, she's great. But they were discussing what the proper ratio should be. And of course, that's going to vary from firm to firm based on what type of practice you have. Is it insurance defense? Is it a general practice like mine? One of our challenges is practicing in so many different areas of law. It presents a challenge from a marketing perspective, from a staffing perspective, from a software perspective, but it has its positives when you have ups and downs in the economy, and one area can support the other, and we can cross sell to each other.
Mhm.
But our ratio is pretty high in favor of staff. We have, like I said, six attorneys, and we have 11 support staff.
Yeah, but that's a good mix, right? That's not a bad thing.
Well, it's good and bad. My business model has always been attorneys should be attorneys, come to work, practice law, reel in some business, give advice, go to court, not lick envelopes, right? So, because that's the way I like to practice, it's the way the other attorneys get to practice. And I think they like that. The paralegals, it's probably like a one-on-one ratio, but then you've got support staff for the paralegals. You have a receptionist who answers the phone, takes payments, greets clients. You have an office manager who does the business side of what we do, the payroll, the accounts receivable, the accounts payable. And then you have a law clerk, an office runner. He's a retired deputy sheriff, and he'll take something to Batavia or Lebanon or, Hamilton if it has to go in person and you can't fax file it or e-file it. So, we're busy, and we're fortunate to be very busy. But yeah, I think we've got a good support staff for the attorneys. I think they appreciate that. But that is the biggest challenge. Like any business, in my opinion, whether you're a plumber or electrician or a lawyer, yeah, you're always worried about budgeting and marketing and getting your cases done. But as the person who runs this business with my office manager, number one challenge, finding good people and keeping good people.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't you guys just talking about that a minute ago, Dave?
Yep. It's hard to find, people that have the technical skills combined with the attitude, combined with the work ethic to actually get things done for the clients and keep them happy, because that's the most important thing right there. And you, in a lot of ways, at least in my experience, you can nurture that, but you can't put that into somebody. They either have it or they don't.
Well,
I don't know. Tell me if you feel differently.
Well, let me add to this, Mark. I think that lawyers just generally need to have an entrepreneur mindset. Does that kind of go along with what you're saying, Dave?
I think just in general, so if you're talking about the attorneys, they have to have that entrepreneur mindset, where they have to say, I'm going to generate my value. And when we're talking about our staff, when we're talking about our support people who allow the attorneys to do that, they have to be able to go in and just take a problem and solve it. Instead of saying, give me a step-by-step on how to do something, I take the initiative to get it done. That's just always been something across several of the different businesses that I'm involved in. It's always one of the challenges, is finding those people that have that go-get-it attitude.
I think some of the best attorneys I've ever had hung their own shingle before they came here because they get the business side of practicing law. Mm-hmm. I always say when I'm interviewing an associate, I say, look, you want to be a good lawyer and be able to do a good job in the courtroom. But you also got to have some people skills, because we're not doing intellectual property or mergers and acquisitions. We're dealing with people, right? And even with the same set of facts, different clients are going to want different things as far as an outcome, and they're going to want a different form of communication from you. And then you also have to have the business side of what we do. You got to enter your time. You got to charge the right retainer. You got to, or you're going to work real hard for half the amount of money. And if you've got the business side, the personnel management, the people skills side, and the legal side, you got all three. You're ready to take over the firm for me.
Jim, I think you're muted, bud.
Well, I as well had the dogs going off a few minutes ago, so I didn't know if you guys heard those. I put this up from Sean McCabe, and Mark, this really stands true. And I think this is what has made your firm so successful, and you expect it from the others in your firm, right? You answer those questions directly for your clients. You don't feel like, you work for them. You truly, I put a post out the other day, and it's kind of funny that Sean put this here. It's very timely. You know who your client is. You know who you serve. And you expect that from the attorneys that come to work for you, right?
Absolutely. I'm not working in mergers and acquisitions for a reason. Mm-hmm. I grew up blue collar, Price Hill, West Side, and I enjoy representing these kind of clients. I truly enjoy helping people through a problem in their life. Now, of course, we want to get paid and we want to do a good job, but if I didn't enjoy that, then I wouldn't be doing this kind of law. And of course, I need that from every attorney and staff person that works here. And then the business side of me also says, if an attorney answers the phone, your chances go up exponentially of getting that case. So for new callers, they're like gold, right? We're spending money to market and make that phone ring. The last thing we want to do is drop that, right? I've tried a screener. It doesn't work unless I was the full-time screener. So the attorneys do their best to take the new call. If not, then the paralegal who has some knowledge of that area of practice. Now, she can't give legal advice, but she can at least say, this is how it works. This is what your options are. You know, I can schedule an appointment for you to come in and meet with the attorney or talk with them on the phone or do a video conference with them. And then as a last resort, the receptionist will do it as well. But if you take a message or put a new caller into voicemail, you're wasting your advertising dollars.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, you got to strike while the iron's hot when it comes to this kind of stuff. Especially now more than ever, when a client's calling, they're calling from online or calling from maybe a referral if you're lucky. They're moving on to the next name in the list that'll answer the phone live. We learned that the hard way.
If they're a previous client or they were referred by somebody you know, they might be a little more patient.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of that, fortunately, after 27 years. But the people that are Googling, they have no patience. You got to answer that phone.
That's right. And
the VoIP systems and the cell phones that we all have now, and the voice to text and the voice to email, and I mean that technology has helped mostly the solos that are out there. But if you have a firm, even a small firm like ours, you can't be everywhere. And you know, if I'm standing in front of a judge, I can't take that call.
Nope.
But if they can speak to my paralegal and get 15 minutes of somebody listening to them cry on their shoulder, I'm telling you that they'll probably be there when I call them back the next day.
Mm-hmm. You know? Yep, you bet. Well, I'm going to ask, we're in COVID right now still, right? Actually, if I'm not mistaken, the numbers are kind of climbing up a little bit right now. Yeah, I think I heard that like 2 days ago. You guys know that too? So right now, okay, so we're hopefully we're past the tough stuff in COVID, right? And I'm sure that there were practice areas that were just hit really hard. And you've got a nice diverse practice set. What are the practice areas right now that are doing really well, where people are just reaching out saying, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z? And what are the areas that they're not? And more importantly, on the ones that are not, what are you doing to help get them to call?
Well, the areas that are up right now, I think everybody knows, is family law, divorce and family law. People must be tired of living together.
Is my wife on your list by chance?
During the pandemic, she sends me $1 a week. So
I thought so.
I'm on permanent retainer. And estate planning. You know, folks are starting to think about their mortality, or they've painted the kitchen already. Now the next thing on their to-do list is get the will done. So those areas are up. Guardianships and probate, things like that are kind of booming actually for us. Mm-hmm. A lot of the experts, including myself, see a bankruptcy boom coming. When the stimulus money wears out, I think the unemployment rate is going to stay high for a while, and I think you're going to see that from a debtor's perspective. You already have seen it, Chapter 11s and 7s for businesses, but you're going to start seeing it, I think, for consumers. Mm-hmm. Personal injury, of course, is down because nobody's driving. So that's kind of what we're seeing. In terms of what I've done, you know, I mean, I kind of went against the grain a little and did some more marketing on radio and TV, and because the prices were cheap, because they were hurting from all the other businesses that had cut their advertising.
Yeah.
And you're a little bit bigger fish in a smaller pond that way. Mm-hmm. And people were captive at home and listening to more radio and watching more TV. So I think it paid off for us. You know, marketing and business is, it's constantly changing, right? So, but Yeah, it's a diverse practice is good in these kinds of times. I remember when 9/11 hit, the immigration practices, or when 2008 and 9 hit, the real estate practices. Um, there were a lot of, if you're a single dimension law firm, it's easier in some ways, but you have more risk.
Yeah, those single practice firms are great, but yeah, when everything's going well, single practice firms is that what Dave likes to call in the industry calls boutique firms, right? I wouldn't even call it boutique, but focused. They do great, man, because you are niched, you know your thing, but there's a danger in it too. Yeah, there's a big danger in it. If you're in, oh gosh, man, foreclosures right now, that's a really tough one because you're kind of being handcuffed, right?
Yeah, there's some moratoriums, and then there's some unwritten moratoriums where it's just not politically correct to take somebody's house right now. But I've heard that there are stacks of foreclosures
Whew.
sitting on the desk.
I know a couple attorneys. Dave, do you remember? I think it was Patrick Smith down in New Orleans. He was the business attorney, right?
Mhm.
And he's actually moving towards changing practice. He has some experience with bankruptcy, and he said, I'm going to shift my practice a little bit and actually be ready to focus on that.
Mhm.
So, and
Yeah. I mean, having some of that diversity is useful. I maintain diversity even in my practice that I have, even though I've very, very niched what goes out to the public, because you always need that other area, that other thing, so you're not completely exposed if one practice area gets either goes in a downward cycle, or if certain competitors, come in and start gobbling up all the business, and you have challenges competing in that area, you can refocus, what you're doing. So
the
I think that's
parachute.
a good point that you make there, Marcus. Having some flexibility, although it can be a challenge in managing those different areas, there's some definite diversification, for lack of a better word.
All the people in our industry are recommending doubling down on marketing too, and it's an interesting thing because if you're doubling down on marketing, you're hitting cash flow pretty quickly when you do that. I mean, and you may not see the results for a while. It's a risky game, but it's a smart game if you can afford to do it.
Yeah, you have to have the capital. I mean, TV, radio, billboards, buses, park benches, whatever. It's name recognition. No one's going to see a billboard and say, "Yeah, let me call a lawyer," or a TV or radio commercial. But when they go to Google for it a month later, and they remember, they think they've seen that name before. It's got. So how do you track it is one problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I they'll say, "I got you off of Google." Well, what does that mean? Well,
Yep.
it could be a directory that they actually went through to get to your website.
Yeah.
And the only reason they chose your name was because they heard it on the radio. So tracking's a challenge, but
How are you handling that right now, Mark? It's challenging. So what steps are you taking right now to figure out what's working and what's not?
And you're welcome to give a plug for someone if you want to, Mark.
Well, we're with all of them. I mean, we're with FindLaw, we're with lawyers.com, we're with lawyer.com, we're with Avo, we're with all the ones that everybody is marketing with, as well as social media. And Sean McCabe at McCabe Media does a great job for us.
Sean was on the news the other day, as a matter of fact.
You can't just market to new people, too. You got to market to your existing client base.
Mm-hmm.
We'll send out 15,000 Christmas cards here in a few weeks.
Yep.
And Constant Contact or MailChimp newsletters every month. You've got to stay in front of your existing people because you represented them 5 years ago, but they saw that commercial from this other law firm in Cleveland, and they're going to call them because you haven't stayed in touch.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just, we were talking about marketing and how to track it, and it's not easy. Our receptionist asks, how'd you hear about us? Google. Well, yeah, but did you go? Oh yeah, I found you through FindLaw. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and you're going to get reports from them and all the directories. They'll send you, how many impressions and click-throughs and whatnot you got. But and sometimes they include a name and a phone number, and sometimes they don't. But it's not an exact science. If you look at reports like I do every week, every month, and every quarter and every year, it evens out, and you know what's working.
Yeah.
But you got to look at the data, and you got to.
So one of the things that you mentioned there, Mark, and I know this from working with you in the past is, you mentioned the Christmas cards, 15,000 Christmas cards going out.
That's a big database.
18. I mean, you've got a huge number of people that you're keeping track of. All right. Do you feel like having that CRM approach, what are there any tips you'd give to people as far as saying, look,
what's a CRM?
Huh?
Right.
What's CRM?
Well, I know you keep your database on Amicus, and you use that to reach out to everybody, and so it's kind of like, do you think that, I'm going to keep my opinion to myself for a minute. I want to hear what you think. What do you think most lawyers are doing right and wrong when it comes to keeping track of their prospects, their clients, this, that, and the other thing?
Well, the only thing you can do wrong is not do it.
Okay.
I mean, we use Amicus, like you said, but there's Time Matters, there's Clio, there's.
Doesn't matter what you use.
There's a bunch of them.
There's probably a half a dozen good canned ones, and then the big firms make their own. But you've got to maintain a database. How do you do a conflict check?
Right.
The question is, do you go beyond that? And
exactly.
It constantly. If an existing client calls, or I'm sorry, a previous client, hey, Mark represented me 10 years ago, and I got a question. Before they are allowed to talk to me, my receptionist says, "Oh, great. We'll be happy to see if I can put you through to Mr. Godbey. By the way, are you still on Glenway Avenue?" "No, I've moved." "Okay, well, let's stay in touch. What's your new address? Phone number, email." And then I get the call. If you don't constantly maintain and update that database, it gets old. I mean, my previous clients is probably more like 25,000. Unfortunately, I've lost track of 10,000 of them because they moved, don't tell you, and even People Finders or any other software can't find them, and that's just the way it works. But I would have 5,000 instead of 15 if I didn't work at it every day.
Yep.
And that's what you got.
It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I'll tell you, Mark, I'll tell the viewers here, because I know from working with you, Mark is incredibly meticulous.
Oh, yes.
About
very much so.
This thing pruned and up to date. And it's like, if there's one thing, like any other attorney, if they ever want to learn like how to keep in touch with people, Mark's your guy to do that.
This is gold, isn't it?
He does a great job of it. And so that's
By the
why
way, Dave, I heard you got a new dog. I got to get his name. What is that again?
Exactly right.
I got 3 of them.
That's exactly right, Mark. And so I've known Mark for what, close to 20 years now, right, Mark? And I will tell you that in my experience, Dave and I have worked with law firms for a really long time together. And Dave's a lawyer, right? And so we get to see the ins and outs of all these different law firms. And most of them would absolutely say that our most mission critical application would probably be email, or maybe my calendar, or my case notes, or something like that, right? Docketing, of course, all that's really important. But, most of them would never say my contact database is one of the most important things that I have. They wouldn't even consider it, right? And Mark would probably put up in the top 3 to 5 for sure. We actually, Mark, we love you to death. You know that, but we know that database that you've got is a huge database, right? It is constantly something that we need to protect and take care of, because we know how important it is to you. It's part of the lifeblood of your firm.
Yeah, I think it is for every lawyer.
Should be
more so for practices like ours. Because the more business you can get from organic, free sources, the less you have to spend on advertising.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you got to stay up to date you got to keep it up to date, and then you've got to market to it. I still think that getting in the mailbox is a good thing. Not every month, but once or twice or 3 times a year, because people get less regular mail. It's not inexpensive, but it's again, it's different. It's going against the grain. Think of how many emails you get now from people with their newsletter, and you just click delete. You know, it's got to be short. It's got to be informative and interesting, and maybe a little funny. It's got to have some graphics. It's not like it was a year ago or 5 years ago, and people are going to be less likely to read it if it's not any all of those things, right? So
think about where are you guys like me? When I get the mail out of the mailbox, especially right now, oh my gosh, with the election stuff, right? Do you sort your mail over top of a garbage can like I do?
Sure.
I move the garbage can by the counter, actually, and I'm like, trash, keep, trash, trash, trash. It's just like that. You've got to attract their attention.
I will say that the Christmas card is really a conduit for the magnet. We send a calendar magnet. So these Christmas cards will have a 2021 calendar inside that you can throw in the fridge. And I actually have people call me and ask me when they're going to get their calendar, because it's functional. And of course, it's something they can keep all year. They're going to throw the Christmas card away.
Oh, yeah.
But, I've always enjoyed the business and marketing side of the practice of law. I have a BA in accounting, and I know there's a lot of good lawyers that don't like it and they're not good at it. Nope. And that's fine. There's no problem with that. But if you're going to run your own shop, you got to have some of that. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's talk to clients for a minute right now, okay? I mean, we talked a lot for the community, legal community, and everyone that might run this video. This is solid gold advice right here from Mark Godbey. He's a master at this stuff, and he's been doing it for a really long time. But there's the other side of the equation. We want to make sure that we're talking to clients. Mark, right now, I'm sure that a lot of your clients are probably standoffish about coming into the office, or maybe you can correct me. Are they currently standoffish?
Yeah.
They are.
Some are very afraid. Some, to be honest, they're just using this as an excuse not to have to drive downtown, right?
Customer service, right?
But regardless of their reason, yes, a lot more folks than ever do not want to come to Walnut Street in downtown Cincinnati. So,
first question is, do you think that's going to change any time in the next year? Or
not in the next year. It's never going to go back completely, because now they know how to use Zoom. They know that plenty of attorneys will come to them, and that they know they can go to our website and make a payment with a debit or credit card. They know we can send them a DocuSign or DocVerify fee contract to sign and send back. They know this. They're learning just like we are as attorneys. And so judges, I mean, there's going to be fewer in-person court appearances. There's going to be fewer face-to-face. Now, every once in a while, you need a wet blue ink signature. You're either going to have to snail mail it back and forth, or you're going to have to go to them, or they're going to have to come to you. And every once in a while, a client, will want to see you in person, and they don't do Zoom. They're in their 70s, and a lot of what we do is very emotional, such as family law. It's personal. If I'm going to handle the estate for your mother who passed, and we're going to be working together for 9 months, you want to meet me. I have no problem with that. We certainly do all the precautions. You get your temperature taken. You have to answer a few questions about where you've been or who you've been around. You have to wear a mask. If you don't have one, we'll give you one. You get your own pen, and you got to take it with you. We sit at a conference table that's fairly large, and nobody comes back into the offices with the attorneys or staff. They stay up front in the conference room. But, I think just as a matter of convenience, we're not going to return to where we were in January of 2020.
We're too spoiled.
You got to learn to adapt. We have several folks now that have their e-notary licenses.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I was hoping that would come up.
Yep.
And there are services popping up all over, for instance, that'll record things for you with the recorder.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the county isn't up to speed, you're going to see businesses popping up that will do it. So you have to adapt.
Yeah. Well, it's about being competitive, right? If you don't do it the way that the consumer wants you to do it, they might go somewhere else that will.
And I hate change.
Mhm.
Hate it.
I know.
But
But
I've
success
learned.
has worked for you, Mark. I get that. It works. The way you've done it works. So, why fix what's not broken? Adjust it as necessary.
Well, you don't want to fix the philosophy and the intent and the work ethic, but you got to change with the times in terms of technology and what the consumer wants.
Yeah. Well, we're a minute over. I got one last question for you. It's a two-part question. And if you're answering both of them, that's great. Maybe they're both the same answer. So right now we know there are some firms that are absolutely struggling right now, just absolutely struggling, floundering, and we really feel for them. And the reason No Law Firm Left Behind is to help them. By the way, if you're not a member of the No Law Firm Left Behind group on LinkedIn, go join it. And if you can't find it, look me up, Jim Gass, and I'll help you find it, because we want to help you in the situations that could exist for your firm. So we know a lot of firms are floundering, but a lot of firms are also flourishing right now. So, Mark, what would you give some advice to the flourishing and the floundering firms right now?
Well, we're flourishing. I can speak from firsthand on that. We're looking for a couple of good attorneys actually. I'm paying my staff a little more, and it's not just because you're here during COVID. It's because I want to keep them, and I know I'm pushing them a little. So if you got good people, hang on to them, and maybe just be a little pickier about what you take. Raise your fees a little. You know what any business does during good times, right? As far as those that might be floundering, I mean, I don't know. You kind of have to maybe take a look at what areas of practice you're in. I think that has a lot to do with it, but that'll change tomorrow. So you got to cut a little overhead, but don't cut your marketing too much. I agree with you that now's the time to market if you can afford it. But some of the big firms were the ones that laid off a lot of people because their business clients are struggling or looking for a lower price on their work. I think some of the smaller firms are doing okay because they don't have as much overhead to cover. Or they do some of the areas of practice that we do that they're still doing okay. PI firms are hurting. I know that.
Yeah. And the courts are slow right now also in that area, right?
And I don't know how you fix that. I mean, you just have to, at that point, you just have to weather the storm and cut your overhead, focus a little more on your Social Security or something instead of your workers' comp and PI. But I learn more every day. The number one headache, the number one cost in my overhead, and the number one thing in terms of importance that I need to spend time on. They're all the same thing. People.
Yeah.
Your people.
Yeah. And that's what's made you successful, Mark. Really successful.
I used to think I got a job, you got a job, you got paid. What do you want? That's how I grew up, right? Blue collar. My dad worked in a factory all his life. It was like, I'm supposed to thank you or give you a bonus because you did what I was paying you to do. But those days are gone.
Nope.
You have to massage and take care of those people.
Well, it's your staff. What are you guys doing now on Fridays? I heard you guys are doing something on Fridays now. I just heard this at the office yesterday.
Doing on Fridays?
Yeah, something going on there. We're allowed to bring something into the office on Fridays.
Oh, we take turns and everybody brings in a dog.
A dog.
Their dog. I hope it's their dog. Yeah, we have Dog Friday.
It's somebody's dog.
Someone's dog. A stray.
As long as he doesn't pee or poop in my office, I'm good with it.
Well, I mean, that goes back, though, to office morale, right? Taking care of the people. Anything like that.
It's a stressful time. We got this election. We got
civil unrest.
We got COVID. I mean, people are We are working here in the office, by the way. We're not working from home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's got something to do with the year we've had.
Yeah.
And all the things we previously talked about and the ability to do that. I think it works being here. And we're safe. Believe me, I have a paralegal meeting with my paralegal who's 10 feet away, but she's in her office and I'm in mine and we're on Teams instead.
Yeah.
But I think, the stress is there. You don't want more at the office. And if you can actually make it a place to come and escape the rest of the world for 8 hours, I think that's a good thing. And I just want to say before we hang up that, I don't mind talking to other attorneys about the business side of practicing law. People call me once in a while. Some attorneys that used to work here call me, ask me questions. I'm more than happy to take the time. I don't see that as competition at all. I think you'll be fine in business as long as you get out of bed and go work hard every day. And I don't fear competition. I'm always happy to help anybody that might be listening, anybody you guys run into that wants that want to just talk with somebody about the business side of practicing law. Give me a call anytime.
Mark, I just popped your name and number, the office number there.
I'll speak from experience, firsthand experience, because I had a case that fell outside of what I normally do come to me about a year and a half ago, and I was, that proverbial fish out of water. And they say under the rules of legal ethics, you either need to know what you're doing or you need to be working with somebody that can help you figure out what you're doing so you don't screw things up. And Mark was the latter for me for that one, because it was the first time I touched anything in that subject area, and he was just helped me literally every step along the way. So thank you, Mark, for that. And I'll just say from my experience, when he says that, it's legit. He's a great wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, great attorney, great friend.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say piece of knowledge, but there's more than just a piece,
Well, Mark, we really appreciate this. This is fantastic. You're just gonna hang tight, Mark. We're gonna end the show here in just a minute. Don't hang up or anything like that. We'll just kind of talk after the show for a minute. But so remember, everyone, this is Mark Godbey, no law from Left Behind today. Godbey Law. The number's there on the screen. If you're a client that needs assistance, reach out to him. He'll give you a nice conversation and be a good ear for you. If you're an attorney that needs some assistance, by all means, reach out to him. He can help you out with a case that you might be out of your area on. But again, No Law Firm Left Behind is on LinkedIn. So just do a LinkedIn search for No Law Firm Left Behind. If you can't find it, certainly private message me, Jim Gast. I'm on LinkedIn. But we really appreciate this time you spent with us today, Mark. It was just solid gold. It was much better than I ever could have expected. So thank you for that.
Well, again, thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, Dave, take care. We'll talk to you soon, guys.
See y'all next week.